Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. APW Sports signing in. And now that basically every team has found their quarterback and have their quarterback situation kind of solved going into the 2024 season, I thought, this would be a good time to tier rank the quarterbacks heading into the 2024 season. And that is exactly what I'm going to do in today's video. But let's make that short and sweet. Without further ado, let's dive into it. Alright, so we got a couple different categories. We got top dog, MVP caliber, franchise guy, good enough, could be worse, low end starter, and high end backup. First, we're going to go with Josh Allen. Now, I would be honest, he's probably one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL, if not my favorite. But as far as his season and his talent wise, I will consider him a top dog in the NFL. He's been basically a top 5 quarterback for at least the last 4 years. Even though he doesn't have Stephon Diggs, and I think that's going to be a bit of the difference between having that true standout number 1 wide receiver versus a collection of guys. But his talent, the only thing that worries me about Josh Allen is the fact that he turns the football over kind of pronely. But he's top dog. Next is Russell Wilson. This is going to be, I would put him in a could be worse. There have been a lot of quarterback situations that could be worse. And Russell Wilson, even though he didn't have that bad of a 2023 season, it wasn't as good as what we were expecting him to be in Denver, which is why Denver let go of him and took that cap hit. It could be worse. And it will be proven in this list, it could be worse. Next is CJ Stroud, my boy from the Ohio State University. Now, this one is a little bit tricky because I'm debating between MVP caliber and franchise guy when it comes to CJ Stroud. But if we're going to go based off potential, I would say MVP caliber. If based off potential and what kind of a year he had during his rookie year last year, I would put him in that MVP caliber type of quarterback. I know it's it's lofty expectations going into year 2, but the season that he had and how accurate he was at Ohio State, and he was last year very accurate with the football, having the highest touchdown to interception ratio. I think the sky's the limit for CJ, and I'm not saying it's just based off biasness either. Next is Anthony Richardson. It's hard to gauge him because at the end of the day, he basically didn't play much his rookie year due to the injury to his shoulder. And for now, I can't judge him only too much, so I will possibly put him in a good enough category, only because I haven't seen but only so much of Anthony Richardson. But I think he can be a very solid quarterback. It's just we have to see it. You haven't seen it, so I'll put him at good enough. Next is Trevor Lawrence, the only first-round quarterback of the 2021 draft that has not moved. And I will put him as the franchise guy. I don't see him as MVP caliber just yet. The way the Jaguars and he himself kind of struggled down the last half of the 2023 year, which seeing them be division leaders to out of the playoffs. So I will put him as that franchise guy. Now, Will Levis. I've been one even during parts of last year. I wasn't really big on him, but I will put him in the good enough category. I still need to see more from him, and we're interested to see how this Titans offense is going to look with now Calvin Ridley, D-Hop, and minus Derrick Henry with Tony Pollard in the fold. So we'll put him in good enough. Now is Bo Nix. Me personally, I wasn't high on him going into the draft, but I would put him at could be worse because, number one, of the team he's with, Denver, they don't really have a quarterback room. And that will be proven throughout points to this video. But Bo Nix, I'm still, the jury is still to be asked on him. Next is Patrick Mahomes. I mean, Two-time league MVP, three-time Super Bowl champion. What else? Top dog. I think he's the best quarterback in the NFL. I mean, that goes without saying. Aiden O'Connor. I will put between low-end starter, high-end backup. For now, low-end starter. He is a low-end starter, and he's still very young. He was a late-round pick, so wasn't much expected of him. But I don't see the ceiling of him being too high either, so I'm going to put him at low end. Next is Gardner Minshew for the Raiders. I mean, it's between good enough and could be worse. I'll put Minshew at good enough because he's shown stretches where he's kind of like a Ryan Fitzpatrick for me. Like, he shows stretches where he's really good, and then he shows stretches where he's just not good at all. So he's like in the middle at this point, good enough. Next is Justin Herbert. I'm not going to put him at top dog, but I still believe if things go right, I believe he's an MVP caliber type of quarterback. And with Jim Harbaugh, who I think is going to elevate this Chargers offense, could be an MVP caliber quarterback. Even though he's lost weapons in Mike Williams, he's lost weapons in Keenan Allen, I still see him as an MVP caliber type of quarterback based off skill set. And based off the things he could do is throwing the football. So MVP caliber for Justin Herbert. Next is Tua Tagovailoa, who I'm also going to put at MVP caliber. Despite the injuries, he was, especially in the first half of the season, you could argue that Tua Tagovailoa was the MVP in 2023. For like the first 6-7 weeks, it was argued that he could have been the MVP of the league if he continued that play. He struggled a bit down the stretch, but I will put him at that MVP caliber level, at least in my opinion. Next is Dak Prescott, who I will also put at the MVP caliber. He had an MVP caliber type of a season last year. I'm not going to necessarily put him at top dog, but he can have an MVP caliber season with CeeDee Lamb coming back. And it's interesting how that running back room is going to look, and I think that's going to predicate a lot of what this Cowboys offense is. But I'm going to put him in MVP caliber. Next is Daniel Jones. I'm still going to put him at low-end starter. I personally, if you guys know the history of my channel, I've never been a big believer in Daniel Jones. Just haven't. Even when he was coming out of the 2019 draft, I still was not a big believer in Daniel Jones. He does have some athletic ability, but he did miss most of last year with a torn ACL. Even then, when he got his contract, I still wasn't high on him. So I'm going to put him in low end. Drew Lock, high end backup. He's a guy that when he's asked to play, he can do the job, but I just wouldn't trust him as my long-term starter. So I'm going to put him at the high end backup. Next is Jalen Hurts, MVP caliber. I think with Philly getting some things righted in their locker room, Philly getting some things righted as far as running the football more, as far as being more physical up front. He has the weapons. He has the weapons in A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. He has a very good offensive line, even though they lost Jason Kelce due to retirement. That offensive line is still very good, and Jalen Hurts is still very athletic. So I put him in the MVP caliber. Next is rookie quarterback Jayden Daniels. I think for now he's a franchise guy. I think for now he's a franchise guy with the Commanders. He has some solid weapons. Of course, my guy Terry McLaurin from the Ohio State University. He has Marcus Mariota as a backup who can help him. I'm going to put him as franchise guy for the moment. Next is Caleb Williams. And you guys already know my expectations for him are high, especially with them trading Justin Fields, especially with the weapons that they have around him. He has to be that franchise guy coming in. With the hype that has been surrounding Caleb Williams, he has to be that franchise guy. And I personally, as a Bears fan, don't expect anything less. Safe to say it, but I don't expect anything less for him to be just the franchise guy. Next is Jared Goff. I'm not going to put MVP caliber because I don't think he is an MVP caliber quarterback, but he is a franchise guy. The way he guided the Lions to the NFC Championship game last year, and they were a meltdown away from being in the Super Bowl, and you can credit Jared Goff for that. even though their defense wasn't necessarily the best, Jared Goff is a franchise guy for them, and I will leave him there, even though I don't see him as an MVP candidate. Franchise guy. Jordan Love, this one is a tough one, and it's not my biasness speaking as a Bears fan, but the second half of 2023, he really started to show that he is a franchise guy, and that is exactly where I'm going to put him as a franchise quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. It sucks that I have to do that because I'm a Bears fan, but you got to call a spade a spade. Sorry about that. You have to call a spade a spade. He's a franchise quarterback, believe it or not. Next, we have Sam Darnold. I would put him at the low-end starter, or it possibly could be worse. So, I mean, I probably would say low-end starter for Sam Darnold. He's a guy that he could possibly be high-end backup too at this point of his career. You know, I've always said that his career with the Jets was doomed to fail to begin with, and we've seen that with Zach Wilson as well. So, low-end starter, he can come in and be serviceable, but I wouldn't trust him with my franchise. Next is J.J. McCarthy, the guy who he's with in Minnesota. This is a bit of a trick, but for now, and it's not even my bias towards Ohio State either. It's just J.J. McCarthy, to me, I think was more of a product of what the Michigan Wolverines did as far as that offensive line being dominant and them running the football very effectively. Yes, it takes very effective quarterback play, but you can tell when some quarterbacks are more product of what the actually system is versus them just taking over games. And I think with him, watching him at Michigan, I think it was more of he was a product of that dominant offensive line and that dominant running game, along with the dominant defense that they had as well. And he was just a quarterback that just didn't make mistakes with the football. So I will put J.J. McCarthy at this point, could be worse. Next is a guy like Jacoby Brissett. He's a high-end backup, and I'm not discrediting him because he could be a low-end starter for you when needed, but for his veteran leadership to what he's going to bring in New England, I'm going to put him as a high-end backup. And I personally believe that Jacoby Brissett is a very good backup, a very good plug-and-play type of quarterback. Next is Kirk Cousins. I'm going to put him at franchise guy. He's proven to be a very good quarterback in this league. He's not MVP caliber. I wouldn't dare do that. But he could be a franchise guy. It's still stupid to me that they drafted somebody else, and we'll get to that person next with Michael Penix Jr. with the 8th pick. But at the end of the day, he's still a franchise guy. Now, I will put him in the good enough category, Michael Penix Jr., that we're discussing. And I'm putting him there because if Kirk Cousins is healthy, I don't see him playing, but only so much. It's still crazy that he's in that Atlanta Falcons situation. I still believe they should have drafted somebody else, and he could have went elsewhere and probably had some more playing time, or it could benefit him if he sits a year or so. Who knows? But Michael Penix Jr. in the good enough category. Today's video is brought to you by Cellular C4. This is a product that I personally used before I even decided to partner with them. And the first thing I got introduced to was the energy drinks by C4. This right here is a fruit punch flavor. They have many other flavors. They have popsicle flavors that just dropped. They have Skittles, Starburst, all the type of flavors that you want. To help you get started with your day, you can wake up in the morning before you start your day and drink you one of those. And also before you get that workout in, when it's workout day, you can take you some pre-workout to help you get the boost in your workout. All the products, 0 sugar, low calories. This is a great product to take you in your workouts and your journey on fitness to the next level. And I am happy to partner with a product that I was already using in my own personal life. And I will leave my code in the description below to save you guys 20% on your first purchase of C4 of their workouts. They even have muscle recovery to help boost after workouts. They have so many supplements and things to help you on your fitness journey. And you can get yours today in the description below. Click the link and use my code APW Sports to help you save 20%. And again, the links are in the description below, and use the code APW Sports to save you 20% on your purchase. Now, and it's time to get back into the video. Next is Bryce Young. For the season he had last year, and I think potentially he could be in that good enough category. I wouldn't put him in franchise guy just yet, mainly because I haven't seen but only so much. Because of the inept ability of the Panthers organization in 2023, I still believe he has a ceiling. It's just, I think, with things surrounding him and the pieces being in place, we just need a little bit more time to see what Bryce Young could be. And that's why he's good enough. Derek Carr, I've always said his time with the Raiders was not his fault, especially how it ended. I would put him in good enough. I'm not going to say he's that necessarily a franchise guy at this point. And I personally like Derek Carr. I like some of the things that he can do, but his play, especially last year, was just inconsistent. So I'm going to put him in good enough. And he has struggled with injuries throughout the course of his last couple of years in the league. So I will put him at good enough. Next is Baker Mayfield. I'm also going to put him at good enough. I don't see him as that franchise guy at this point, but he did lead that Buccaneers team to a division title and a playoff victory over the Eagles. I will put him at good enough. He's not terrible, but he's not great. I don't see him as that franchise guy, so I will put him at good enough. Next is Kyler Murray. Now, this Cardinals team did look a lot different when he was back in the lineup during the mid part of the season last year. They started off rough, and now that he has Marvin Harrison Jr. from The Ohio State University, I think he's going to have a true number one wide receiver that he really hasn't had, but only DeAndre Hopkins, you could say. Larry Fitzgerald was at the back end of his career when he was with him, but I think Marvin Harrison Jr. could bring that true number one wide receiver that he has kind of been lacking and his team needs. So, and Kyler Murray is a very solid player for me. So I'm going to put him he's a franchise quarterback. Next is Matthew Stafford. I will also put him at the franchise point, mainly because of this Rams team. Nobody thought that this team was going to make the playoffs in 2023. And with his play and elevating Puka Nacua, I think he's a franchise type of guy, even at his older age in his career. I think he's proven that despite him being on some bad Lions teams, and now the Rams were not supposed to be in the playoffs last year, and for them to lead them to the playoffs, I'm going to put him in a franchise guy. Next is Brock Purdy. I will put Brock Purdy as an MVP caliber. I still don't think he's a top dog just yet. But Brock Purdy, we saw last year's MVP caliber, led this team to a Super Bowl, and was a couple of throws away from winning this game. So I'm going to put him at MVP caliber. He was MVP caliber last year, and I think with some of those pieces that they still have in San Fran, he's there. Next is Geno Smith. Geno Smith, to me, he's just good. He's good enough. He's not a franchise guy, and I definitely don't see him as an MVP candidate. But it's interesting to see how he's going to look now that Shane Waldron is now out of Seattle and with the Bears, because I think his career kind of rejuvenated when Shane Waldron was brought in. So I'm kind of interested to see how they're going to use the weapons in Jackson Smith-Njigba from The Ohio State University, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Kenneth Walker III in the backfield, but I still don't see him as that franchise guy. He's good enough. He's going to have a steady ship. He's going to carry him. I'm not necessarily carry him, but he's going to be like that even keel type of quarterback. I don't see him having these highs of highs or lows of lows, so he's right in the middle of the pack to me. Next is Drake Maye. I think with the Patriots and the situation that they have, he could be in the middle of the pack for now, especially going into his rookie year, because that team is still rebuilding. And I think him, along with Jayden Daniels, are in perfect situations where they're not asked to win football games right away. They are not asked to carry the team on their back. They are still in good situations where I think they could just grow and just develop as quarterbacks without the pressure. And I think that is big for each one of those guys. And Drake Maye, I think he's going to be in the middle of the pack, but if he's developed right, and I think this is what all their season should be about in New England, is developing Drake Maye, his ceiling could be high. Next is Aaron Rodgers. I will put Aaron Rodgers as an MVP candidate. MVP caliber, because the last time we seen him play before he got hurt with the Jets last year, he was a very good part of that Packers team that almost made the playoffs in 2022. It sucks that he tore his Achilles, which I think with the Jets adding Mike Williams, with Garrett Wilson from The Ohio State University, with the running game and improvements that they've made on their offensive line, and if Aaron Rodgers comes back healthy and still returns to form, that is an MVP caliber level type of quarterback. Next is Lamar Jackson, top dog, but I just hate that he did not play well in the AFC Championship game. Two-time league MVP, reigning MVP, the things he does with his legs, and he's been proving more as a passer as each year goes. And with Zay Flowers, who I think is a very good draft pick for the Ravens, who had a very good rookie year last year, and a running game with that very solid offensive line, even though they lost a lot of defense, but that's another video. I still believe he is a top dog quarterback, along with the guy in his division, and that will be Mr. Joe Burrow, who I think, when healthy, MVP caliber, top dog quarterback in the NFL. We've seen in the 2021 where he surprisingly led that Bengals team to the Super Bowl. 2022 led him back to AFC Championship game, and he spent most of last year hurt, whether it was a calf, whether it was the wrist. But when healthy, top dog, top 5 quarterback in the league, easily. Next is Deshaun Watson. This one's tough because he's been dealing with a lot of injuries and a lot of off-the-field stuff as well. I will put him in the middle of the pack for now, even though I personally like Deshaun Watson. I like some of the things that he can do throwing the football and his legs, his mobility. He just has to stay healthy, and he has to elevate his game to what it has been the past couple of years. So I will put him there. And last but not least, my guy, I still wish he was a Bear, Justin Fields from The Ohio State University. I will put him in a good enough category, mainly because I think at some point he's going to take over Russell Wilson. He's going to take over for Russell Wilson, and they're in a different offense outside of Luke Getsy, outside of that BS that we had to deal with Bears fans and Luke Getsy. I will put him at good enough for now, but I just have to see a little bit more with him in a different system with different weapons with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And at some point, I think I'll probably predict by week 4 or 5, we're probably going to see Justin Fields starting for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'll put him at good enough because I think he's going to have a better year than Russell Wilson. But this is my quarterback list heading into 2024. If I made any mistakes or if you disagree with a pick, leave them in the comments down below. I love to see what you guys think. I love interacting with y'all. So leave your comments down below. And if you got this to the end of this video, comment Khalil Williams Bear Call too. I know you got to the end. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.